Omen from Los Angeles, California was formed in 1983 by guitarist Powell after a short stint in the band Savage Grace. He'd appeared on the Savage Grace EP, The Dominatrix, which had been released by Metal Blade Records. But with little of his own material making it onto the EP, Kenny was eager to start his own band. Luckily, he'd become fast friends with Brian Slagle, the CEO and founder of Metal Blade Records, who basically guaranteed Kenny a record deal for a new band. I became personal friends with Brian. We'd go to concerts and sporting events together, and he'd said, "You get a band together and you've got a deal." So that worked out pretty smooth. Kenny would be joined by Steve Wittig on drums, Jody Henry on bass, and J.D. Kimball on vocals. And with the new band finally together, Omen would first appear on the Metal Blade compilation album Metal Massacre 5 with the track Torture Me. It's a great intro to the band, showcasing an Americanized new wave of British heavy metal sound, supported by JD's powerful, raw vocals and a fantastic solo from Kenny. Later that year, they'd build on that sound and style with the release of their debut album, Battlecry, also on Metal Blade Records.
Shameless killer in the night, raping all the feelings before the break of light. Trample down the ashes, grind them with your hate, taking out the helpless life before it's too late.
This is one of my all-time favorite metal albums. I bought the vinyl based entirely on the album cover, having heard nothing about the band previously, and it turned out to be everything I hoped it would. The battle-ready aesthetic is more Armored Saint than Manowar, and the tracks are all under 4.5 minutes long. But there's still an overall epic feel to the music here, with shades of Manila Road.
You know what I'm thinking? Deep inside my mind, maybe you will take a chance. Now here's what you find. You bring out the beast.
For me, JD's vocals are an excellent fit for the music, nailing the epicness without feeling over the top. Plus, Battlecry is full of badass, memorable solos that perfectly complement each track. While Battlecry does tap into a bit of speed metal here and there, its overall focus is on the power side, and contains multiple classic standout tracks like In the Arena, Die by the Blade, Last Rites, and of course, the Axeman. I think Battlecry has held up really well. I was very satisfied with it at the time, particularly as it was a very small recording budget. They're just good songs, and anytime we play any of them live, we don't even have to sing. Omen would follow up Battlecry with their second album, Warning of Danger, in 1985. For me, Warning of Danger is just as good as Battlecry, and maybe even slightly better as a whole, with a more developed sound and consistently awesome songs. The songwriting is a bit more elaborate and varied on here, but the power and atmosphere of the debut album are still the foundation, with plenty of melodic fist pumpers like Make Me Your King, Don't Fear the Night, and March On.
March on, battle warrior. Monster battle, you battle with all your might. March on, battle warrior. You can't lose. You can't win without a fight.
And once again, Warning of Danger is packed with fantastic solos. There's also much more of an Iron Maiden sound on this one, with guitar harmonies and galloping riffs, heard on tracks like the first of the album's two instrumentals, VBP, which, believe it or not, stands for Vibrating Butt Plug. It was kind of like, well, what the hell are we gonna call this song? Then, I don't know, Vibrating Butt Plug. It was an off-the-cuff remark that just stuck. Then the second instrumental, Premonition, goes into what I can only describe as early dungeon synth, giving the album even more of a Dark Ages atmosphere. It might have worked a bit better placed at the beginning of the album, but I still think it's a very cool track regardless, and it sets the tone perfectly for one of the album's speediest cuts, Termination. Warning of Danger was a really good step forward, and I'm very proud of that record, especially as you get your whole life to write your first album and a year to write your second. It's a little bit tighter and better produced. It was the big album for us in South America, and when we go there, everyone knows all the songs. It's like Battlecry is for us in Europe. Omen's third album on Metal Blade, and their first with distribution by major label Capitol Records, was The Curse, released in 1986. This is another badass American power metal album, utilizing essentially the same approach as Warning of Danger, although The Curse does have a bit of a darker tone.
How can I fight the beast within? Must I kill again tonight? My soul will burn for the sin. Must I kill again?
For The Curse, I wasn't working a day job, so I was able to totally concentrate on it, and we had a budget. What wouldn't really be considered by a major label as a big budget, but for us it was a windfall. It was 3 or 4 times what we'd had to work with before. As far as quality of the recording, The Curse is by far my favorite record. The Curse does sound amazing, and once again, pretty much every track on here is a banger. Along with the Iron Maiden vibes, there also seem to be some more commercial touches here and there, but even those are utilized extremely well.
Do we believe in the holy martyr? What is the secret yet to be unveiled? Offerings are made upon the altar. Hallowed be thy name,
And yes, the guitar work is excellent as always, including another epic instrumental in SRB, which stands for Space Rocket Booster, and was dedicated to the Challenger space shuttle crew. It was really eerie. We were on tour with Metal Church at the time, and we were down in South Texas. I think we played in San Antonio, and that night I dreamed that the Challenger space shuttle blew up. It wasn't the exact same scenario, but I dreamed that it blew up. And we were driving back out the next day when the news came on the radio, and I literally ran the truck off the road. I was driving the equipment truck at the time, and I just had to stop. It ripped me out really hard, so that song was kind of dedicated to that event. With The Curse, Omen succeeded in releasing 3 pretty much flawless American power metal albums in a row. It has everything you'd want from Omen based on those first 2 albums, including its own fan-favorite tracks like Teeth of the Hydra. But even with a positive reception and major label distribution, Omen didn't get to immediately tour for The Curse. And when the opportunity came up over a year later, the band decided to quickly put together the Nightmares EP, so they'd have something to promote while on tour.
Darkness is falling, shadows are falling, slow motion running from the figure of evil so near. It's only a dream, alone with a scheme. Nothing's what it seems. The nightmares won't let me be.
That thing was done in about 2 days. We went into the studio, cut all the stuff in pretty much one take, slapped some vocals on there and mixed it. I'll tell you what we spent on that EP, $2,500 in recording costs. Considering that 3 of the 6 included tracks appear on previous albums and 1 is a cover of an AC/DC number, the EP does feel a bit rushed. Still, the 2 new tracks up front are very cool and reveal that some metal church must have rubbed off on Omen, especially in J.D. Kimball's very David Wayne sounding vocals.
Sacramento likes me, my brains need a dose. Give me electricity, 100,000 volts. Electrodes in place, another mental case. There is no more pain.
But unfortunately, some cracks started to form in the band while touring, and J.D. would end up being let go. Some people have difficulty with saying they want success and then getting afraid when it starts coming. I feel that kinda happened with J.D. He got out of control and ended up in jail. We'd worked really hard and we were landing some bigger tours, got some good reviews and stuff, and he just couldn't keep his stuff together. I'd worked so hard for so long, it was a hard decision. I always thought that we would get back together at some point. I loved his songwriting and we made some epic music together. It is a complete shame that it ended the way it did. He never got to see Europe and what he helped to accomplish. Kenny's roommate at the time, vocalist Coburn Farr, would end up finishing out the tour and would also appear on Omen's 4th album, Escape to Nowhere, in 1988.
Well, that's not easy. Stand up, cower, as we overload the halls. Well, that's not easy. Are you ready? 'Cause the bridges have been burned. Lessons have been learned. Yeah, come on, take a stand with me.
Produced by Paul O'Neill, who had just produced the Savatage album Hall of the Mountain King the previous year, Escape to Nowhere is definitely more polished and theatrical than previous Omen albums, but there's also somehow a much more restrained commercial sound as well, that ultimately just feels kinda flat.
Like your neighbor who's got it made. Don't put no hold to you. Just listen once and then you'll find. Rider in the shadow, going near. Rider in the shadow. Ride.
However, this was apparently not the album that Kenny Powell wanted to make. This was the first time we'd really used a producer, and I loved the stuff Paul had done with Savatage, but we came in with an entire record and every song was dismissed. I was ready to record the heaviest, fastest Omen record ever, and I should have put my foot down on the change of styles. I just got caught up in the moment of doing something different. I fought through it, but it wasn't the right thing for Omen. I was really unhappy with the album, although it did really well in the US, being a bit more commercial. We were on the radio and in the top 40 for a few months, but I didn't enjoy the music or the process. We should have done the record we planned to do. The album they'd originally planned to do as their fourth had been called Era of Crisis and allegedly sounded far closer to Omen's previous releases. Unfortunately, there were no demos recorded, and by the time they finished writing an album's worth of new songs, the Era of Crisis tracks were lost, except for Escape to Nowhere, which was apparently the only song from the scrapped album to survive.
As I stand on stage tonight and try to see beyond these lights, if I ventured in my dead, would I find anybody there? For all my gods have gone insane, they see no evil, feel no pain, and all the hurts I have inside are beyond their foolish pride. I never followed, never lived, and when they can't, I never bled. I never gambled, never lost, but only now I feel the cost.
Regardless, this just doesn't deliver what you'd want from Omen, and instead offers up lackluster radio-minded material, including an unnecessary cover of Radar Love. Some of this may grow on some listeners, but you can tell the band doesn't have their heart in it. Also, I personally find Coburn's vocals to be a bit grating on this one, and I'm not sure he was a great fit for what they ended up doing. And yes, Cam Dagnall is credited for drums on the album, but Steve Wittig actually recorded them and left the band before Escape to Nowhere was released. The tour for Escape to Nowhere was actually the biggest and most profitable for the band up to that point, but after the departure of bassist Jody Henry and some difficulties with Metal Blade Records, Kenny was feeling burnt out. There was no support from the record company. They hated the record. Metal Blade pulled the budget after they heard some of the songs. Thank God for Paul O'Neill, who pulled money from his own pocket to pay for mixing the record. In the end, though, it was time to put Omen on hold for a while. I was the only original member left after all of the touring, and I did not want to do another record with Metal Blade. There were 3 or 4 records left on the contract, so I just ended everything and asked to be released from the contract. Kenny would move out of LA to Dallas, Texas, but he found that he missed playing music. He'd eventually form a new band called Stepchild, and along with Andy Haas on bass, Doug Stevens on drums, and Steve Kelly on guitar and vocals, this group released one album in 1994 called The Prayer. It's pretty standard mid-90s alt-rock, and nothing I'd recommend going out of your way to find necessarily, but it's easy enough to listen to, and definitely feels more organic than Escape to Nowhere.
What's wrong with my eyes? They're leaving forced to be. My mind's working all the time. She'll get me back to a career.
However, once things started progressing with Stepchild, Kenny realized that if he was going to put effort into a band, that band should be Omen. The music didn't really turn me on, but I had just come out of the big breakup of Omen. I was kind of depressed about the music business in general, and Stepchild was a fun band. I had a good time, but it got to the point where I was like, well, this is fun, but I really would like to go back to playing by myself. So I decided that we were going to part ways and that I was going to put Omen back together. Picking up bassist Andy Haas from Stepchild and drummer Rick Murray, Kenny would also be joined in this new Omen lineup by his son Greg Powell on vocals and guitar, to release Reopening the Gates in 1997 on Massacre Records.
The sound of the love to see, but the lies and deceit, corruption and fire, they spread throughout like the disease. Every box, like the dead,
Unfortunately, the gates are not really reopened on this one in my opinion, and instead we get something more in the ballpark of Pantera and late 90s groove metal rather than epic power metal.
Well, we march with the dead. Yeah, we march with the dead.
At that stage, I had no idea about the European fan base for Omen, and I didn't really want to be a dinosaur. My son came into the band, and he was into a lot of the newer metal, and it just kind of evolved into something it shouldn't have been. It didn't take long to realize it was a mistake, but you can't take those things back. You just have to live with them and move on. Full disclosure, I was not able to find the entirety of Reopening the Gates, but what I did hear all sounded pretty similar. So I think it's a reasonable representation of the remainder of the album.
Somebody's never going to say my life I can rearrange and live every day like a Saturday. Live my life my way. Every day like a Saturday.
Omen would get the chance to tour Europe for the first time following this album, supporting Fate's Warning, and they quickly realized what most fans were there to hear. We did our first Euro tour ever, and every night it was one less new song, two more old songs in the set. Fucking awesome, I thought. People really do care about what we did those first 3 or 4 years. I'm not insane. This really was something special, something to be proud of. Ready to return to a more classic Omen sound, Kenny would realize he needed a new singer, and he'd have trouble locating J.D. Kimball until hearing of his untimely passing from cancer in 2003. He'd end up recruiting vocalist Kevin Gucher for Omen's 6th album, Eternal Black Dawn, released on Mausoleum Records.
Behind a mystic portal, travel through the 7 gates, unobtained by a man mere mortal. Tribulation rages in my head as I search for sanctuary. Past the point of no return, Mother Mary have mercy on me.
Overall, Eternal Black Dawn is pretty good. It's certainly not full-on classic Omen, but it is their best album since The Curse, with far more of an old-school power metal direction.
Blinded, dream of another breath. This day, should end in death. Eternal black dawn. Everything we know is gone. The hand of doom has sworn. There's eternal black dawn.
Eternal Black Dawn does stay pretty mid-tempo for the most part, but it's loaded up with enthusiastic riffs and some cool choruses delivered by a capable singer in Kevin Gucher.
Kill the witch. Kill them all. It's genocide to watch them fall. This is the signs of the burning times. The flames they rise in these burning times. The burning times.
This one grew on me the more I listened to it, but it doesn't touch those first 3 albums in terms of power, melody, and memorability. The album closer, a medley of 4 past Omen tracks, does a respectable job at bringing back that early energy, but I found myself enjoying Chaos in the Cathedral more, one of the speedier tracks on the album with more of a Manila Road kind of vibe.
There's chaos in the cathedral. The demons rise to the feet. To slay the saintly and feeble, and spill the blood of the free. The lion's moon is on the rise, and fearless storm
I feel that Eternal Black Dawn was an important step in getting Omen back on track. I did all of the recording myself at the Omen studio, and it was a great learning experience. It opened a lot of doors for the band, and I was hoping to keep that lineup for the next record. But as I've found out from the past, not everyone shares the passion. First, Rick would leave the band to start his own business, followed by Andy, who wanted to spend time with his 3 kids. Kevin would stick around for a while, but would eventually leave to focus on his own band at the time, Phantom X. Kenny would keep the band going through tours and several different band members, including vocalists George Call and Matt Story, but neither worked out when it came to recording new material. With Steve Wittig and Andy Haas unavailable due to budgetary and family reasons, Kenny would eventually record all guitar and drum parts for a new album on his own. He'd also be joined once again by Kevin Gucher. This collaboration would become Omen's most recent album, Hammer Damage, released in 2016.
Bodies broken apart. Smashing skulls and crushing hearts. Death of battle scars. All hell the hammer. All hell the hammer. All hell the hammer. All hell.
While the songs seem to be pretty cool for the most part, it's kind of hard to tell, since the album is marred by an unfortunately poor mix. It's not unlistenable, but it's impossible not to hear.
I return. To my home, my heart, my mind, my soul. They belong to
As it is, it's rather unexceptional and a bit frustrating to listen to due to the production. Although apparently this was partially because of some health issues Kenny was having while mixing the album. I collapsed on the floor about 4 in the morning, suffering from pneumonia, congestive heart failure, and extreme high blood pressure. It took 5 or 6 visits to the doctor, several days where I could not lie down or go to sleep or I would stop breathing, and finally ending up in the ER to get the right medication before I could do anything. At that point, I decided to send the mixes the way they were. I knew if things had gotten worse for me health-wise, the record might not have been released at all. Looking back now, that may have been a mistake, but I truly feel these songs are good enough to overcome the flaws of the production. After Hammer Damage, Kenny fleshed out the group with Reese Stanley on drums and Roger Sisson on bass, and this lineup would put out a single called Up From the Deep in 2017. It's a cool track, and it sounds better production-wise than Hammer Damage, but this would be the last recording with Kevin Gucher. He'd be replaced by Greek-born Nikos A, who would be heard on the 2018 Omen single, Alive. I didn't find Nikos, he found me. He heard I was looking for a singer and contacted me, telling me he was my savior. I'll be damned if he wasn't right. He is by far the best singer since JD, and completely dedicated to the band. We hit it off right away and speak almost every day, even though we're a world apart. I'm extremely happy to have him.
Your body and soul, you're mine. I'm your slave, I feel so alive. Banish me, we swear, you may not live again. Oh, child, just you wait and you wish me away.
I do like the tracks on this single, and I agree that Nikos is a great fit for the band, so I'm excited to see what they do next. Omen are still together and touring, now with bassist Justin Riddler, but a new album has yet to materialize. Hopefully though, we'll get something soon with the current lineup and vocalist, but for now, that is Omen. For your homework, Battlecry from 1984, Warning of Danger from 1985, and The Curse from 1986 are absolutely essential. I'll also include the Nightmares EP from 1987, plus Eternal Black Dawn from 2003 for a taste of the more modern stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this look back at Omen. There is tragically not much footage available from this group, but I think the music speaks for itself. So go check out more of this awesome American power metal band. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Thank you all for coming. The album will be out Friday. There's t-shirts on sale in the lobby. Thank you!